Dave Hirschman, AOPA pilot with the RV-15, an airplane we're all going to be seeing a lot of in the future. The airplane looks kind of imposing when you see it on the ground. It's big, it has this kind of aggressive attitude at which it stands. Flying it was very confidence-inspiring, and it flies very friendly. Friendly is kind of an unusual word to describe how an airplane flies, but that's sort of how I would describe this one. It's extremely well balanced, fantastic visibility, and really no surprises.
AOPA keeps flying safe, accessible, and fun by protecting your freedom to fly. We are the most trusted one-stop resource for all things related to general aviation. Join AOPA today. Thanks to Lightspeed for sponsoring this video. Click below to learn more about the Lightspeed Delta Zulu.
Well, it does have good energy. That was a good acceleration. I wasn't even trying to get off very short. So I guess we get out of the Delta and then we can start maneuvering. Just going to do a few little turns left and right, just kind of get the feel for it. Wow, it has got RV ailerons, no question. I just do the same with my feet on the floor and test for adverse yaw, of which there is definitely some.
Oh yeah, big long wing. Certainly a very powerful rudder. You can certainly pick up the wing and...
Right, yeah, I'm just a little yaw movement. Yeah, it's kind of it's surprisingly light in the I mean, it's lighter than I would have expected. I'd say that's sort of moderate pressure in the rudder, but boy, it really breaks out. Now there's no rudder trim, is there?
There's not. All axes of the airplane. We've flown lighter and heavier, and we certainly are in a position where we think we have it tuned out to a really good, great place for the mission. You know, light and not fatiguing as you're maneuvering and looking around and trying to find a good landing spot. But the stability, you know, you can still fly an instrument approach. You don't feel like you're totally active and heads down on the numbers.
Right. Okay, 115 knots, rolling into we'll go for a left turn. So there's 45 degrees bank. We were decelerated a few knots, so that's probably because I'm climbing a little bit too. Okay, let's slow it down for a little slow flight. Let's just go. We'll just do a straight ahead power off stall.
Channel traffic, helicopter 6 Papa Alpha, turning final 25 channel.
Hey Jennifer, tell me something.
She's turned off at the moment.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
That wing will talk to you though.
That sure will. Yeah, so that's a that's a noticeable stall break. It's let me get back to it a little bit. I didn't really feel any real buffeting in the before the break. 54, 52, all centered. 50, 49, 48. Little bit of very gentle break with a little right wing down in that one. I get to put the little flaps in, so this is the wide arc, is it not?
Correct. It's a 90 knot wide arc.
One notch. Let's fly with. So 2 notches is lift flaps, right? Lift.
Yep. So we're still very much in our lift configuration. There's still more to go, but you know, we've got a lot of translation. We've had a wing area growth.
Right.
That aren't too dramatic into that rotation.
Yeah, and I'm impressed there was very little pitch change. I didn't feel any pitching moment with the introduction of flaps.
Yeah, both the flap and the pitch power relationship. We have quite a bit of tuning on this airplane.
Okay, we'll keep it under 70 just now. No, and this, I want to feel the ailerons. And boy, the roll rate is surprisingly good with half flaps. Third notch.
Oh, looking out for you guys.
And is 3 notches typically the most flaps you would use? Do you ever get to the 4 notches? Does that happen very often?
I typically don't feel like I need the 4th notch, but at times you'll put yourself in a configuration where it's just kind of fun to use the 4th notch.
Okay.
You'll fly a little tighter pattern. You have a bigger drag state available to the airplane. It definitely will quit flying and settle down easier when you do chop the power.
Right. Okay, so 65 knots and 3,600 feet. I'm just gonna go do a little more slow flight with 3 notches of flaps, which I gotta anticipate. That's probably a pretty high flap setting for most.
Yeah, it's a very standard. Like if it's really big crosswinds, I'll keep it at flaps 2. But even then, it's just a really well-behaved airplane.
Yeah, that stall brake was about 38 knots indicated, which is darn slow. Go ahead. For that 4th notch, that requires some pull.
Yeah, it tends to be when you decide you need it, you're quite slow at that point.
Right.
Now it is still approved all the way up to VFE with 4 notches, so you can bring it up as fast as needed, but it certainly is more of a pull to get it back out.
Right.
You see there's very little buffeting on the tail.
Yeah, I don't notice any, frankly. Okay, so 58. Just trying to keep it around 60. That's it, and you know, not surprisingly, it requires a fair amount of power to do that. So almost, 19 and a half inches. So maintain 60. So if you're applying the pattern at this.
Yeah, so typically I'd be, near idle.
Yeah, and once again, very little pitch change. I'm just going to pitch up for a little
go around simulation, or?
Yeah, I'll just do a power off stall with full flaps. 40, 38, 36. There's not a huge amount of difference in speed in the stall brake at the higher setting. Okay, I'm just going to do we'll slow down and we'll do a turning stall. Okay, so I'm just going to roll in about 30-degree bank and then tighten the turn and just do this sort of moose stall sort of scenario. Okay, so 70. Power is pretty much at idle when I'm turning, and then I'm surprised that airspeed's not bleeding off a little quicker, but it is bleeding off. $60, 59, I've got pretty much full back stick. 55. Boy, it's hard to get a stall in this.
Yeah. That heading in your hair sure cranks around good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to introduce a little climb to get it to go. Man, it just won't do it. What's that's amazing. It's so stall resistant in that. I mean, I physically am having a hard time getting back stick, so maybe that's part of it, but it's like, I don't think that's all of it. Try this again.
Pitch authority.
Okay, we'll just do kind of a nose up attitude for the turning stall. There's a buffet. Can't believe the wing is hanging on as well as it is.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. When you're slow, it's kind of difficult to G up because it's just turning so aggressively.
So there's the beginning of a stall. Okay, that's amazing how how stall resistant it is.
And that's part of this custom airfoil design. They're trying to make sure it talks to you when it's going to do it, and it's a more mellow pitch change in the stall.
Okay, so talk me through the approach and landing.
We'll establish ourselves at about 75 knots on the downwind, get the airplane configured, and I typically will pull a notch of flaps in, brings the nose down a degree or two, and just brings the flap handle up so you're not, you don't feel like you're reaching for it for the further notches in the approach phase. And we'll start slowing the airplane down, really just with power and holding altitude. until we find about the 55 number is what we're looking for as we're low power approach, close to idle. And something that tends to surprise people with this airplane is it doesn't have nearly the drag state you expect. So it's not an extremely steep idle approach. It feels more traditional to normal airplanes. You can certainly get it down. There's tons of drag if you push the nose down and bring the speed up a little bit. And it's a great slipping airplane. I'll kind of work you through and give you the little bits of advice along the way, but all in all, you won't need much, and I certainly won't have to touch any controls, and really just talk.
Okay, well, don't be shy if you do. All right, fast, slowing down, and I see what you mean about it being a little more slippery than I anticipate.
Light crossing from the left, but we're doing well.
I just carry a smidge of power.
Up to it.
All right, flaps coming up.
You can leave it configured for the go around if you want, or just
okay,
however you want to do it.
Here comes the power. Pivot.
Yeah, hard to beat a big prop.
Yeah, that's impressive. Boy, the initial acceleration's excellent. Okay, so at VY we're climbing 1,600 feet per minute, 1,700. That's pretty normally what you see.
Yep. Let's do a stop and go and see if we can get a reel configured for a performance takeoff.
Okay.
Which is really flaps 2.
Roger.
Hold the brakes.
Pitching for 60.
Yep, keep coming up.
They're coming up. It's a 20-degree attitude, 20-degree pitch attitude almost. There's a 17. Accelerating and putting the flaps up.
Land traffic says a 607 uniform.
All right.
I just got back from flying the RV-15 for the very first time, and it was hugely enlightening. I've got less than an hour total time in this airplane, and I've got no exceptional flying skills, but the airplane at full flaps at a normal approach speed, you can touch down and stop within 800 feet without braking. I mean, even without using the brakes, I actually had to add power to get to the first runway turnoff at 800 feet. In an hour, I've not come close to mastering the airplane, but it inspires confidence and you feel very comfortable flying the airplane, even during your first flight in it. Advanced Aircraft has patented the landing gear system in this airplane, and it's quite creative in that it's aerodynamically clean. There's nothing hanging in the wind, no braces, no extra structures. Yet it's a very firm and very rugged nitrogen-based shock absorber system that's all internal to the airframe. This was my first chance to make any takeoffs and landings with it, and I've got to say I was impressed with its aerodynamic cleanliness. The airplane goes fast and doesn't really want to slow down, but more than that, its ruggedness, because we're doing 3-point landings and really sort of dropping the airplane in. And it's nice and firm. It's got no tendency to bounce. The spring gear, the sort of spring steel gear on lots of traditional high-wing backcountry airplanes is really bouncy. But whether you're doing, sort of 2-point wheel landings or 3-point landings, this gear is both firm, positive, and has no tendency to bounce you back up in the air. This airplane has a huge baggage compartment. I think they're going to have in excess of 900 pounds of useful load, 44 cubic feet. So it's got a huge amount of space behind the 2 seats. And that's going to allow a huge amount of versatility. You could carry whatever you want or need with you when you go on backcountry trips. You know, the wing in this airplane is kind of magical. It does a great job of flying slow and resisting aerodynamic stalls. You know, one thing that backcountry pilots need to worry about is what they call the moose stall. And it's where you're spotting wildlife and you tend to see something on the ground and you'll turn and you'll look back over your shoulder and try to wrap the airplane up in a turn. And it's easy to depart controlled flight in that situation. And this airplane, I tried all sorts of turning stalls and aggravated stalls, and it just doesn't want to do that. I mean, it's like the wing really hangs on. It's got, a thick cord, it's got vortex generators, it's got large flaps that cover most of the span, and it's tremendously stall resistant. The wings also contain a huge amount of fuel, 60 usable gallons in the case of the RV-15, and that just allows tremendous range and endurance. You could fly out to a backcountry spot, fly around, and still have enough fuel to fly back. The fuel is all carried in the wings, so it's not carried in the fuselage, which is a safety concern. The recently passed Mosaic regulations are likely to have a huge impact on Van's aircraft and the whole industry. But the RV-15 in particular, its stall speed is well under the 59 knot Mosaic limit. It could theoretically be built as a SLSA or a ELSA, and that is going to allow it to be built to a much higher state of completion. The airplane was designed from the beginning to be extremely versatile. It could incorporate a tricycle landing gear. It could incorporate a wide range of engine sizes. And so I think that under the Mosaic rules, the RV-15 in particular would be a candidate to become a fully factory-built trainer, or a tricycle gear airplane with a smaller engine for training, an IFR trainer. I think we're going to be seeing different versions of the RV-15 for many years, and this is just the beginning.